Hi, my name is William Ayrea. I'm the Director of Annual Giving at George Mason University, and today I'm going to be making for you my family recipe of persimmon pudding. I'm in the Dr. Camille Berry Nutrition Kitchen here on Fairfax campus in Peterson Hall, and I can't wait to share this recipe with you guys. All right, so the first thing you're gonna need to do is get all of your ingredients together. You're gonna need 2 eggs for this recipe, 1 cup of buttermilk, and if you don't have any of this in your kitchen, don't worry, not many people do. You can actually make your own. There are plenty of recipes online. 1 cup of half and half. You'll use half a cup of melted butter. This is obviously oil in this case, but when you make it, it'll be using 1 stick of salted butter. 2 teaspoons of baking powder. 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 2 cups of granulated sugar, 1 dash of cinnamon. Normally, this recipe calls, as the name implies, it's a persimmon pudding. So you want a pint of persimmon pulp. That's pretty hard to come by unless you've got some connection in the Midwest for some guy who stirs, or lady who stirs persimmons and delivers them to you. So in this case, you can use a can of pumpkin pie mix. This is just 100% pure pumpkin. It's like a pureed pumpkin. You can find it in the grocery store. Just 1 can of that'll do you. I think it's 15 ounces. All right, well now it is time to start mixing our ingredients. Before doing so, you can set your oven to 325 degrees. It's actually a very quick recipe, so you'll probably time it just right. Right when the oven heats up, you'll be ready to pop it in the oven. First thing is first, I'm gonna scramble some eggs. Nothing fancy here, just mixing it around. Then once that's more or less a homogeneous mixture, gonna put in your sugar. And then will also be, this is the step where we're gonna mix in the pulp itself. So you're gonna mix that in, and surprisingly, when you get that sugar, when it meets that pulp, or in this case, the puree, actually thins it out. You wouldn't think it would be that way, so if this gets all runny on you, do not be alarmed. It is supposed to do that. So now, those are nice and mixed. You're gonna have a separate bowl for your dry ingredients. For those of you who don't normally bake, you never pack your flour. Always make sure you just gingerly scoop in there and then scrape it off here. So then you get a nice flat top, and that's how you know you have exactly a cup of flour. You never want clumps of baking powder or baking soda. Any of you who have ever mixed improperly and hit one of those, you know exactly how disgusting that is. So now that you've got all of your dry ingredients, you'd want to put those in. Same with salt. If you were to add salt to this, I generally add that there. Dump that right in now, so then you can whisk in, or with your fork if you don't have a whisk, get all of your dry ingredients nice and mixed so you don't hit any clumps of nastiness. So now we're gonna take these dry ingredients, we're gonna mix them in here before adding our other wet. If you've already pre-sifted your flour, great. It's not gonna hurt at all. And I'll demonstrate just a little bit for you here. I'm not gonna do it for the whole thing, which you would. It takes just an extra 2 minutes and it's worth it. So you just sift a little bit in there. So let's pretend I did that, but I'm not gonna go through the time there of going through the entire thing of sifting. So we're just gonna do that. I might actually grab a spatula here instead, fold that in so it doesn't fluff up everywhere on me. All right, now that you have mixed in those dry, and had a nice combination with the dry and your wet ingredients, you're gonna mix in some of these additional wet ingredients. We've got this handy 2-cup Pyrex here, which is perfect for this because we are adding 1 cup of our half and half. Important note about wet mixture. As you noticed, with the flour is a dry cup. With the milk and any other wet ingredient, I'm gonna use this clear one, because then you always measure from, it's called the meniscus, the bottom of the meniscus of the actual liquid that you're working with. So in this case, the very, very bottom, where it's like completely opaque, that's when you know you've got a cup. Not the very tippy top of it, which will climb up. I think that's due to capillary action or some other, Lisa might actually know. She's in the background there. Lisa, do you know why it clings to the side? Okay, trivia question. And for all of you scientists out there who are watching this and you don't, and you do know, and you're disgusted by my thought that it might be capillary action, I apologize. And then the other cup that's gonna go here is our cup of buttermilk, which smells oh so nice. So 2 cups that, and that's gonna mix in nicely in here. This you can just dump in at this stage. It's not gonna matter whatsoever how slowly you pour that in. Maybe it is the surface tension, there we go. Maybe it is the surface tension of the liquid that you're working with tends to cling to the side of the vessel that you're using. I don't know. Science and cooking together. So, in your final step in preparing for this to go into the oven, so you take your melted butter. I've got over half a cup here, so I'm not gonna go exact with this. Coat the whole bottom. You can work up around the edge too, because that's gonna make your cutting job a lot easier if you just go around each edge, and then the remainder of that is not gonna go to waste. It goes right into the actual mixture itself. It'll end up probably being around 1/3 of a cup or so. So that was a little light, so I'm gonna pour a little bit more in, but just, you don't even really need to worry about measuring this. When you melt your butter, it's just one stick. And then the last step, to pop it in the oven, you just pour it right in. If you don't have a baking dish this large, you can probably use a couple of 9-inch pie pans will do you. You'll get a lot more crust that way. If you like crust, great. And then just for a little bit of added flavor, you're gonna take just a sprinkling of cinnamon over the top. And I mean super light, to the point where you can even tell maybe in the camera here, the air conditioning system is kind of like taking it and wafting it here. So it's super light, just to the point where you can see it on there. Then you pop that in the oven for an hour. When you put that in, it's gonna go in the oven at 325 degrees for about an hour. I would say usually, if anything, you're gonna leave it in longer as opposed to shorter. You don't want to remove that too early. You're gonna think it is, especially if you're using persimmon pudding. It's very, very, very dark. I cannot impress upon you how dark that the persimmon pudding gets. We'll share some pictures with you. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And this is your final product. Do not remove that prematurely from the oven, as long as you remove it with, I'd say anywhere from an hour to an hour and 15, depending on how your oven actually bakes. You know your oven better than I do, so you'll know. And that is, in this case, pumpkin pudding, but persimmon pudding. I hope you're able to share this recipe with friends and family this holiday season. And if you're interested in more meals and treats, visit giving.gmu.edu/2020recipes. If you enjoyed spending time with us today at the Dr. Camille Berry Nutrition Kitchen, please visit give.gmu.edu and support your favorite Mason program.